I want to have a quick conversation with you about how to start an online jewelry business. So here are the general considerations I want you to think about. First of all, you need to find your niche in the jewelry industry. I mean, the jewelry industry is a very diverse, very convoluted industry. So you got to really be clear as to what you want to have in the first place, okay? So think about the jewelry industry that's full of niches and subcategories, everything from cheap and cheery plastic artifacts to fine art, precious metals, and gems. So one of the first questions to ask yourself: what type of jewelry am I going to sell? You can opt for fine jewelry, costume jewelry, also known as fashion jewelry, or something in between. Each category has its own materials, production process, price point, and customer profile. So you got to really always think about your budget versus the profitability you intend to seek out of the whole venture. So when we think about fine jewelry, for instance, fine jewelry is really at the top end of the market and can be identified by the following qualities. You have made with precious metals and gems, higher price points, made with a master craftsmanship, rarely mass produced for luxury, wedding, or special occasion customers. So that's an important element when it comes to target audience. When we talk about fashion or costume jewelry is sold by chain boutiques and online stores. You can spot it by this properties, designs based on current fashion trends, made of artifacts, wire, plated metal, plastic, and synthetic gems. You have lower price points, often mass-produced and for the everyday consumer. And you have artist design jewelry. So this category captures everything in between. So handmade jewelry requiring specialized skill and mid-range materials are found here. So bespoke jewelry will have the following qualities: varied materials mixing inexpensive and precious. So textile, metals, semi-precious gems, wood, 3D printing. You have unique designs, collectible, made to order, one of a kind, skilled craftsmanship, mid-range price points that actually correlate to a designer's popularity. And you have occasion or statement pieces for collectors and gift-giving customers. So it's really important to really know exactly where you actually position yourself. And you have jewelry products and categories: rings, necklaces, bracelets, earrings, engagement and wedding rings, watches, toe rings, body chains, and piercings. Next, you want to think about you want to research market trends. So if you want to start an online jewelry business, you need to research market trends. And when we talk about market trends, we're speaking about either doing it locally or globally, okay? And so researching trends actually it's one way to validate your chosen direction. Read fashion and jewelry blogs and follow fashion influencers and popular TikTok creators in the space to stay on top of trends for each upcoming season. Look to other jewelry designers for inspiration. The thing is that your inspiration may be fantastic, but you never know, right? So, and don't be afraid to dig into some data. Using Google Trends, you can also see broad global search volume for a particular item. And so alternatively, you might look into adjacent consumer trends, such as the appetite for customizable experiences like engraving, or tap into the growing trend of sustainable shopping habits by using ethically sourced materials. That's really kind of, especially if you all want to diversify your sources of inspiration. But the thing is, business owners don't have to follow just trends. You could also use your jewelry business to start your own. That's really totally possible as long as you have the inspiration and the vision for it. And it's important to understand that you can find jewelry design inspiration everywhere. So success as a newbie in any facet of the fashion industry depends on strong aesthetic, unique design, and consistent branding. So before hiring a designer to develop, let's say, branding or crafting individual pieces, you can actually run through a few exercises to define your overall signature style, right? It's how you differentiate yourself. So depending on how you like to get inspired, you may set up Pinterest boards, design your own your own digital mood boards, use a jewelry design mobile app, or even assemble inspiration physically on a bulletin board or in a sketch book. This is kind of important, especially when it comes to getting the inspiration from everywhere. Next, you want to define your brain. So basically, it's all about having a rock solid brain if you want to be successful, right? Remember, brain is different from branding. Brain is your voice, mission, vision, and your brain story. It tells your potential customers how to feel about your products. So fashion products are often emotional, and emerging brands can win customers by connecting on a personal level, even through something as simple as a business name. So telling your brand story and finding your voice is totally worth it. Your brand guidelines will inform everything you do as a brand, right? Because this essential document will capture everything you from voice and tone to mission and values. It will be really useful in keeping your communications consistent even as you scale. So best practices for jewelry brands. You want to understand your audience. So this goes back to what I said earlier about the demographics. So how do they speak? What tone and slang will resonate with them? You want to establish a brand voice and tone guide. Tell your story through your about page and add personality to your social media post by sharing the process and inspiration behind your designs. And also, you want to think about packaging, logo, and brand identity. So, branding refers to the tactical elements that represent your brand visually. So, we're speaking here about logo, packaging, business cards, and your websites. So, once you have established your product's aesthetic, chosen a business name that resonates with your audience, and nailed your customer profile, it should be a lot easier to identify an overall look that will define your brand. That's really an essential step, even for a small business. So don't rush it. So when we talk about starting an online jewelry business, the branding aspect of things is really quite essential. And so, branding design tasks to complete as a new jewelry business owner. You want to decide on fonts, colors, and photography aesthetic. Develop the logo yourself using a free online logo maker or hire a pro. Create a library of brand assets, including multiple versions of your logo and other design elements that will appear on packaging, social media, and your website. Choose a recognizable domain name to help your customers find and remember your website, because they got to remember, they got to connect with you, right? They have to remember your website. Design product packaging and creative shipping materials to match your branding. There has to be a strong match there. And so for a larger budget, you can work with a designer to translate your vision into a full branding package for your business, from the logo and website to packaging and marketing materials. And this is kind of cool. And you can also try to write a jewelry business plan to sort of contextualize your business, and that will help you a lot, especially if you're trying to really get into you're trying to connect with your target audience. So a formal business plan may not be necessary if you don't plan to pitch your idea to your investors or seek other forms of outside funding at the start. However, checking out a few business plan templates may be a good exercise to help you understand your target audience, goals, business model, cost, and growth plan. It's also really helpful as your team, if you have a team, the team can learn how to run a jewelry business. Next, you want to produce or source your jewelry products. So when we talk about basically, this goes back to what I said earlier about the cost elements. How you will develop your products by hand or in a factory, at home or outsourced, depends on the complexity of the design, price points, materials, and required skill level. So basically, you have to think about the production actually goes through several steps or methods, if you will. You have handcrafted jewelry production, fine and one of a kind, handcrafted jewelry production, fashion and costume, jewelry production, factory outsourced, jewelry production, print on demand, and jewelry curation, drop shipping and resale. Okay, so every method depends on what you're looking for. So when we talk about handcrafted jewelry production, fine and one of a kind, basically handcrafting one of a kind jewelry can be one of the most involved yet versatile of the production methods. So and this again has to go back to your background artistically, but also in terms of resources. So depending on materials and design, some methods of bespoke jewelry production requires specialized training or certification and expensive equipment. You may need to learn some of these methods, including soldering, silver, goldsmithing, casting, 3D printing, laser cutting, leather tooling, weaving, or gemstone setting. And when we talk about handcrafted jewelry production, fashion, and costume, it really depends on the depth and breadth you're seeking. Because handmade costume jewelry often involves the assembly of existing elements, chain, wire, cash elements, and doesn't require special training or equipment beyond basic hand tools. And this type of business is easier to scale as you can purchase elements in bulk or create templates for assembly by hired production staff. You also have jewelry production factory outsource. Instead of making the jewelry with your own hands, you can have your design manufactured actually by a third party, okay, by someone else. So this isn't really ideal for fine custom or one-of-a-kind jewelry, but it can be cost-effective for fashion jewelry produced in larger quantities. And there are two main options for outsourcing to a jewelry manufacturer, local and overseas. You also have a jewelry production print on demand. So this is where you're going to the likes of like a third parties, okay? And so your original designs, your designs are 3D printing or recreated in stainless steel, wood, plastic, gold, or silver and shipped directly to your customers. And then you also have a jewelry curation. So you have drop shipping and resale. So this is totally possible, especially if you have the right market mix, okay, market synchronization here. Next, you want to set up a jewelry business, studio, or workspace. So if you elect to make your jewelry in-house, you will need a workshop space for you and your team. This is an important element. And so when setting up this space, consider the following: maneuverability, safety, and storage. So maneuverability, consider the flow of the space, especially if the assembly has multiple steps. Do you move from one station to the next in a logical sequence? Safety, some chemicals or tools involved in jewelry making require proper ventilation and safety precautions. So check with local laws governing use of those substances and processes. In terms of storage, well-organized multi-compartment storage is essential for small parts. So it's really important to think about that beforehand. So we have to think about stuff like jewelry, equipment, and tools. There are several online resources for how to make jewelry online, including wholesale jewelry making equipment, tools, and supplies, including precious gemstones and raw metals. And number 6, you want to take professional photos of your products. Okay, and so product photography can make or break your online store. So this is true across many industries, but it is especially important for brands in the fashion industry. In many cases, with a very simple lighting setup, you can achieve a great DIY photos of your products, even with a smartphone. I mean, you don't need to actually have a sort of fancy, photo gear. No, jewelry, however, can be a little more challenging due to the tiny details and reflective surfaces. But if you have an iPhone, a top-rate iPhone, you should be really good to go. So don't skimp on photography. And so it's even if you are on a budget, a professional photographer is skilled at making models feel comfortable and setting up complicated lighting. And other additions to your photo shoot team include stylist, makeup artist, and assistant. And so hiring models doesn't have to break the bank, really, when you think about it. Okay, it's one of those things where you have to see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And what I want to say here is that you have to really understand that you have to make sure that anything you do can help you connect better with your target audience, right? It's all about connecting with your target audience. Next, you want to build your e-commerce store and start selling jewelry online, okay? And so now that you have your production, brand, and photography nailed down, let's put it all together to start your own jewelry line. You don't need an expensive and complicated website to be successful. You can set up your WooCommerce, your BigCommerce, or even a Shopify store using a free theme, customized with your brand assets, fonts, and colors, okay? Choose a website template that complements jewelry, put in the photography first. So this is kind of cool. And clean themes are designed to let your products and brand shine. And most options allow you to easily customize the experience, even if you're not a designer or developer. So now there are some essential pages and content. You have the home page, collection pages, product pages, and also the FAQ, contact, and about pages. Those are really, really important. You also have some apps for jewelry businesses. There are several apps in the Shopify App Store you can add to your site to help with how to run a jewelry business. Everything including improving the customer experience, reducing returns, and increasing conversions. This is kind of cool. And next, what you want to do is you want to market your e-commerce jewelry brand. So fashion and jewelry are heavy, saturated industries. So how will customers hear your voice above the noise? A good marketing strategy will depend on your product, audience, and budget, and may require some trial and error. So customer acquisition will be an ongoing concern for your brand. So there are a few things you can do to actually counter that. So you have social marketing. It's really cool. You have collabs and influencer marketing also. And you also can think about public relations for jewelry brand. You can do a pop-up retail, wholesale, and artist markets. And you have a lot of strategies. Let's first dig a little deeper here. So when I talk about collabs and influencer marketing, you are able to identify those influencers that are really prominent in your niche, in your sector, and really start working with them. And when we talk about social marketing, well, making jewelry sales doesn't mean having to bombard your followers with sales pitches. So what you want to do is you want to fill the gaps between a product-focused post with inspirational content. And after a while, you will realize that you are inspired by a similar stream of things, and it tells its own story. And we can also try pop-up retail, wholesale, and artist markets. So basically, you just want to make sure that you are sharing a booth at a local clothing show. And so this is kind of cool because you never know where you will be selling stuff. So markets offer the opportunity to get out and see customers in person and get feedback directly, right? So this is really cool to think about. Next, you want to scale your business, and that's the last part actually. So when we talk about online jewelry business, how to start, you got to think about scaling. I mean, for new businesses, start small by pitching your designs to local boutiques. But as you scale, you can work your way up to larger partners. Wholesale still accounts for the bulk of many businesses when it comes to jewelry business online. And so you can work at the right time with large retailers like Nordstrom, Simons, and Hudson's Bay. Okay. Another way to scale involves opening up to new markets. Explore international shipping options to see if your product can be sold globally. And if it can, you might want to really go that route too. Try expanding your jewelry line with new products and collections to reach a wider local audience too. And so this is kind of important because especially if you are targeting different demographics at the same time, it's kind of cool to explore new markets, new opportunities, and new trends and new lifestyles. Okay. And what I want to say here is that when we talk about really sort of expanding your niche, it has to be in sync with what you're selling, because the thing is that you do not want to have a delta between your target audience and the product you're selling. There has to be a match, and this match has to be consistent across the board. This is kind of important. And one thing I want to say also is that when we talk about online jewelry business, how to start, you have to be consistent. So if you are, let's say, every quarter or every year you always come with new products. You want to be consistent, because fashion business in general is a very competitive industry, and you're not the only one coming up with ideas all the time. So you got to stay one step ahead of your competitors if you want to capture the imagination of your target audience. And nowadays, the target audiences across the globe are very they're not really loyal anymore, especially if you're not really adding value to their lives. So you want to constantly be in a position where you're adding value all the time. So in closing, in today's conversation, I spoke to you about how to start an online jewelry business. I give you the general considerations in terms of finding your niche, defining your brand, taking professional photos of your products, among other things, and scaling your business. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.